we've had got to see the actual very first Stanley Cup victory.
Two. Well, we got a quorum. All right, we'll call the Plan Commission meeting to order. I think we've had a bit of a vacation since September, which didn't bother me that much. But we do have three things on the agenda tonight. I don't, it's formal, but sort of informal. The first item on the agenda is not what we're going to cover first. I'd like to cover the certificate of appropriateness first, just because it shouldn't take too long. It's in a historic district, but it's a requirement. Oh, yeah, we could do that. I was going to wait till the end till I found mine, but go ahead. Does anybody have any corrections or additions or deletions from the minutes? If not, all right. Motion to approve, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, got that one out of the way. But I'd like to do number three first, the certificate of appropriateness for Alex Glenn to rehab paint, replace the signage at 210 West St. Louis. I think there were pictures you should have gotten. Yep.
You said it was 210?
Yeah. Here. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I also printed out, I know they kind of printed out a little bit. I don't know, maybe they didn't print out okay. That's so slow. Seemed like.
Well, it was, I mean, my copy was, it was smaller pictures, but they printed okay. And, I mean, all we're supposed to review is, is it appropriate? Is it, I think it's in keeping with the historic district. So, anybody have any comments?
Is it retractable that?
No, so basically the front of the building somewhat resembles this banner, and all I'm trying to do is basically a black and white checkering. But there's nothing that's actually gonna be sticking out any further. All it is basically just painting that scallop, and every other will be black, white alternating to make it look like this banner that's, whatever the awning overhead. And then the bottom color, there will be no paint on the brick. It's basically just the wood-based spots that are already previously painted, but they're just gonna get that greenish color, which is the next door neighbor color, Minerva. So theoretically, the colors are all present on the main street already. It's just, asking for improvement.
Is there any comments from the public? There's I'll call for a motion so we can either discuss or vote on it. Call for a motion to approve. Recommend approval, excuse me.
I'll recommend approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? All opposed? All right, got that one out of the way. Thanks for being here and providing the pictures. Okay, so we'll circle back to number one on the agenda. It's a special use permit for Penny Miller to be allowed to operate a short-term rental at 424 West Main Street. So the application was attached as well as the city clerk wrote a little summary of compliance. There was a couple things I did want to talk about that are probably related, but we'll address the permit itself here. Normally, parking, in fact, I think I had a list of things that we typically would look at in these, and stipulations that we've put on them in the past. It's only good for the applicant. So if it's sold or changes hands, they would have to ask if that's what the new owner wanted to use. Off-street parking only, minimum 2-night rental stays, and that may be in the ordinance too. I'm not sure in the rental ordinance.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, because other communities have had trouble with somebody renting it for a night for a big party, and and then I think one other one, we had 2 adult occupants. So what I thought I'd do is open it up to the applicant here, I hope. Maybe just kind of give us a little rundown on what you want to do.
Well, I've only had the idea already in my week. I've had it for about 3 years. I catered to medical staff and Air Force. It's been good. All the parking is there's no street parking. There's enough parking for everybody. Yes. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's helpful. I thought your name sounded familiar, but it's been a while.
At City Hall about 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah, that's what okay.
90 reviews. No problems. And it's really good.
Thank you. I'm Robin Schultz on the planning commission. So your medical staff and your Air Force personnel who are renting, are they renting for not short term, but
Mainly long term, I accept some short term if they rented before, because that's the thing. I also Airbnb run background checks. So they're not real thorough, so if I find that if there's someone then I run my own. If it's long term, because I don't want any problems either, obviously.
so these are like professional traveling nurses and physicians and things like that who are here for a 3-month contract or something like that.
Yes, exactly, and
TDY personnel.
and the Air Force right now, the housing situation is backed up because of the. What was that called, shutdown or for the government? So right now, it's mainly Air Force, and I really do love hosting them because they're respectful. They leave everything, nice, I mean,
They better, or they're gonna get in trouble with their. fans.
exactly, that's why I was like to host Air Force and
So easy to call.
if there's a problem, and I never had to do this, you just call and
Yeah,
then they're in trouble.
oh God, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody from the audience? Yes,
AJ Dotney, I have a question. What is the house being used for right now? Because there seems to be a very quick turnover of people moving in and out there already.
Right now, there's, 2 people registered. There's the nurse, there's me, I'm on the property this time, just like last time. I stay on the property, get it established. And then, I have a nurse who works at St. Elizabeth. I have Garrett is here tonight, who has rented from me for about a year. I'm in and out, I show people, the property for long term, anything over 30 days, and they're more than 30 days usually, so.
So is more than 30 days considered? That if they're there for 30 days, is that considered short-term rental according to our ordinances?
30 days is the long term, anything less than 30 days is short term.
Because I was under the impression it was already short-term rental, that's why I'm asking.
No, it's not.
so I'm not familiar with how, is there not a tax on that?
For long term,
For short term,
yes, there is a tax, I'm in good standings with the city, I pay my taxes. I provide, and when these people come to Lebanon, there is no hotel, there's nothing. So, the Henry College two parents come. They're in school district. I'm sorry.
how many bedrooms are there in that house?
There's 2 upstairs, that's what I occupy, 2 upstairs. And Garrett, occupies 1, and then a long-term nurse occupies another, so.
Okay.
I think that's.
So then that would fall under multifamily, which is another zoning issue. Because that's not zone multifamily. And then my third question is, at one point when I sat on the planning commission, we talked about limiting how many numbers of short-term / Airbnbs we were going to allow in the city.
Yeah, and that was the issue I was gonna bring up if nobody else did. You know, to me, it's a bit of a. I kind of walk right down the middle because on the one hand, if it's suitable and it's property owner and it's legal. On the other hand, we are supposedly a residential community, but we don't have any residences left for people to live in. The flip side of that is, folks are fixing these houses up and they'd otherwise be falling apart. So I don't know where I stand on it. I'm talking like I said, I kind of can see both sides.
I'm just saying, if she lives on the property part-time and is renting it, then we have multifamily, which is not zoned for multifamily.
Mhm.
If she has people in and out.
Yeah, cause I think it's,
cut off.
Hmm.
Long term, do we have that established?
I think it's 30 days, but I don't have the ordinance in front of me.
And like I said, I was under the impression it was already being used as short-term rental because there's a quick turnover, of people moving in and out.
If I may,
Yeah,
if I had to guess, what you're maybe referring to, it is very common for people to come by to view the house.
I'm talking moving
So-
trucks, I'm not talking visit.
Oh,
Okay.
what were you referring to then? The thing was, I did rent. Yeah, there, there was there was that family room that I was going to rent to. And then I had to move out. And that was early on, that was a while ago. But the thing is that I'm on the property, I do have other places to live, but it's monitored, it's safe, I changed the key code. If there's any disruption, I don't want a disruption, I don't want anything to go wrong, so.
That's not the issue. We've had other people in town who live on the property and then have other, Airbnb type situations, and they had to fight to get their Airbnb, and we've had to change ordinances and things like that. I'm thinking of Jessica's
mhm.
mother-in-law house that she had on her property, and we've had to fight with ordinances on that. Well, this is a similar situation. If she's living in the house part-time and renting, it's not zoned for multifamily. I'm just bringing up top, points that I'm not sitting on that side anymore. It's things that I want you guys to think about.
Well, I like the idea of staying in a house that's trying to be established for an Airbnb.
And
because-
I understand all of that, but I'm talking from a legal standpoint. These are things that have to happen.
I didn't do my homework and go home and get my ordinance book beforehand. It used to be multifamily was more than 3 unrelated parties. I'm not sure that's the way it's defined anymore.
That she stays there, he stays there, and she rents to her, so that's 3.
That's 3 people.
But I'm not sure that's how it's defined anymore. Yeah, I think those were updated. Like what is multifamily? Yeah,
That law has changed. 'Cause I always argued about that in the past. I thought it was ridiculous for the city to come in and say, well, you can't have unrelated people. Not their problem. My understanding is the federal law has changed on that. You can have, you don't have to be related.
no, I think that's right. I look at it more just from a personal standpoint. If there's enough bedrooms, that's how yeah. And so I think the city ordinance actually has, or how we define what multifamily means is different than it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Yeah.
Into our ordinances. Like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we check all boxes according to our ordinances.
Yeah, thank you for your concern. I mean, I could live there part-time if that makes any difference, but I like to be where I'm working. Something I'm establishing like I did before because it worked.
Yeah, I understand.
So I stayed in the house before. And I made sure everything was, up to date, everything was clean, that I had the right people in the homes. And I like to monitor it, so I feel like it's a good thing for me to be in the home.
Where is your other location?
Wesley Street.
Okay, now we've talked, I've got,
Oh, I know you. Yeah, I remember you from last
I
meeting.
own the property behind, yeah.
Yeah,
It's never been a problem, so.
it hasn't, and it's amazing to meet the people, to even be living in the homes with the people. Just so you get to know them. If you don't like them, if you rent the whole house to someone and they have laws where you can't have them leave. I mean, that's horrible. I mean, I want good people surrounding me. So,
If you want to table until somebody checks the ordinance out.
Well, I don't think it's a zoning issue. I think it's zone residential, which I don't, there's. Even if it was, even if that made it multifamily, I'm not sure you'd wanna. Change it, it's a residence. That, I guess my other question, AJ, you touched on it, and that was. How many of these is too many, right? Yeah, yeah. And I don't have a census for how many there are.
I have that same question there, because I don't have a big issue with them either, so far. The issue at some point, and that's been discussed in the past, but I don't think anything has ever done.
No,
How
no,
many, you need to limit me, how many do you want in the same neighborhood? We're looking at 2 group homes
Mhm.
in the Knolls now, this is a big argument, a big fight there. The other question that comes to my mind is short term versus long term. The short term requires a special use permit because of the Airbnb, if I'm correct.
right.
But if she's over 30 days, that's long term. So it's not, it would not be considered an Airbnb.
Well, that's my understanding, yeah. I mean, so, yeah, cause I was thinking about this the other day when I got this. Well, if there's a lot of folks who rent their houses, right, or rent their property to long term, they don't get a permit for that.
Yeah, that brings that up too. If she's renting more than 30 days, then she's not technically running a short-term Airbnb, then if our ordinance says over 30 days isn't short-term. So then she wouldn't
Wouldn't need to be here.
need.
But it sounds to me like though maybe there are from time to time. And she's probably checking that box to make sure.
Yes, exactly, I am, because I do have long term right now. But the thing is, I wanna be legit, I wanna bring it to the city, I want to be able to have short term if I need to. Right now, I
Yeah.
don't. I'm coming to the city to be able to do this, and also, there's no hotels, there's nothing, these people bring revenue to the city. And it's a safe place, I mean, unless. You know, there's a hotel or something.
So you want to be able to do both. Is
I
what you're
wanted
saying.
I like long-term better, because long-term is safer, it's more profitable to me. I don't have a turnover, but I wanna be able to check all the boxes too, just like you, to make sure everything is safe.
Yeah, I think you would want the ability to leave also if you have gaps, you might be able to more easily fill those with short term until you can find your next long-term tenant.
Yeah, but I prefer long-term, I prefer the military and nursing staff, because there's no problem, and I don't want a problem, just like no one does here, so.
When you talk to somebody about staying there, do you ask them about how long are you gonna be here, or do you?
Oh, definitely. I asked them, I have,
At some point, do you say, no, that's too long,
no, I would rather have them, long.
Okay.
If they're a good tenant, if they're a good, you know, they're not disrupting anything, I would rather have them there long.
Sherry?
How
Yeah.
does that affect the hotel tax that these Airbnbs have to pay? If she,
Well-
if it's split, how do we figure that in?
And
We know how many
inspection.
Airbnbs we have, and they pay tax yearly on that.
And inspections, because the short-term Airbnbs have to be inspected more often than long-term.
Well, so what's your question?
How does that affect the tax if she
Oh,
does
yeah.
long-term, short-term, long-term? Is she an Airbnb and she's apartment for rent? And at one point, there was something, and I'm for it, but you know, there's always something that'll sneak out at you. They couldn't rent out a room. They couldn't do that.
Comment, Brad?
Yeah.
If it's, I'm just throwing this out for discussion here. The way I see it, if at any time she's short term, she'd have to pay tax. If it's long term, she would not. Now, how they keep track of that? I don't know. I also don't know how they keep track of existing.
Exactly, that was my point.
Oh, well.
Do you, because I pay the tax. I have to.
I mean, it's like most laws, it's law-abiding citizens follow it and the rest don't.
I can They don't do though, but one of the things about. My understanding is one of the things about it, once it's an Airbnb, I mean, you can easily verify when guests were there and when they weren't, because it's on Airbnb's platform. I mean, if anything, there'd be more of a concern. With that, if it's long terms where you don't technically need the special use permit. But with short terms on Airbnb, I mean. They were there, I mean, you can pull it.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think like the city could say, hey, show us your log of Airbnb. And you'd be able to verify the short-term piece.
A lot more
But
oversight
somebody's
there.
gotta do something to make that happen, but.
Yeah.
And most of the houses too, in this area, there's an Kennedy College. So a lot of the students will want to rent out too, and how are we monitoring that compared to an Airbnb when I'm living in the house again? So, I don't know.
If I can say something else too, and this is just anecdotal, and I don't pretend to be an economist or someone who is in tune with the city of Lebanon's vision or goals for the city, but because I've stayed with her for a year now, but I've also helped her out, handyman type stuff, and so I'm very familiar with the Airbnb at Wesley. As a general rule, long-term tenants, they work and sleep. And just because that's what they're there to do. The people with disposable income, the people spending money, the people who, come asking, hey, do you recommend what restaurants, what place to go, what things to do? As a general rule, those are more short-term people. So there's that benefit as well for the short term, so.
My question would be is when would you like to make it a short-term rental?
It's not necessarily has to be right away. Like I said, I have long-term right now, but I'm covering all bases. I don't wanna get. I want
If you have a
to see,
projected date, that gives us a point where we can make a decision, which we can make that pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't have to have another hearing, I don't
Right.
think, but, if there's some things you wanna check out, we can do that or, table it, but. I don't wanna just do it to table it either, if,
No.
um, you know. Another item that's, I don't think it's been addressed before is, in this case. She has history with the city and operating these, but another consideration is you put a period on it where it has to be re-reviewed at least, after the first year, after the first 2 years, and I'm talking about on, other requests.
Special use permits, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
same
'cause
thing that came up at the September meeting, where I said annually we review them.
review it, right,
At least
yeah,
that makes logical sense.
Yeah. yeah.
I don't know about putting a restriction on the number per quadrant or per area.
Yeah, that was just throwing that out there, and if we're gonna do that, we would have a separate hearing for that.
Well, we need
At a future minute.
by which people can look and see if it's
Yeah,
equitable.
yeah, no, exactly.
Otherwise, we're doing things.
Yeah,
randomly.
if we're just- yeah.
It's smart for that.
Yeah,
I mean, someone next door could say,
Right.
I want one. Sure. And they would be legit to say. No, they got it. Right, yeah.
okay.
I just got a message. Penny, do you live in your house on Wesley now, or?
no, mainly Maine. Once in a while, I'll block a room just because I want to. Because I have work to do there. I do most of the work. I have to hire Garrett to help me. I just bought another house in Mosquito. That's a long-term rental too. So, yeah, I visit them. That's my job. I go around all day. Go to your job. Clean. I'm the cleaning lady. He's the repair now.
So you live on West Main?
I do right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Thank
like
you.
it there.
You're in fact the registered owner. Are you a corporation at all?
No, I am an LLC, 8 penny saved.
Oh, yeah, that's what yeah. I think I saw that somewhere on the document.
That's not what it looks like.
But that's my job. I maintain the homes. I watch over them. I cater to my customers and so forth.
That's, yeah, it looks, it does not have that.
Well, I would be concerned about splitting the property. In other words, allowing short-term in one section under the same roof and long-term in another section.
Of the same
It would be
property.
the same as an apartment where they have short-term versus long-term.
But she's not asking to split the property into both. She's asking to be able to do both at the same property. So if she has a lull in the long term, then she would like to use
Yeah,
Airbnb short.
I'm just kind of, daring it a little bit for some logic is all. The same property, same roof.
So
Because when you delineate and change, there has to be a point of the change, and how is it done administratively?
right, because so with long term, we do inspections every 4 years, short term, we do every year. Short term, we do the hotel tax,
So,
long term, we don't.
Short term would, it requires an annual inspection.
what I would recommend, though, if we're gonna do it, an annual review, is that we do that for an annual period. Make the review in the period for the special use permit coincide.
Gotcha.
So it's efficient, right, it's for the city
Yeah, in other words, it
administration.
would, yeah, it would get, in theory, it would get expected before we,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it would make logical sense to do that. That might be too restrictive.
Yeah.
I think she would have to follow the short term rental.
Right, yeah, they'll, yeah, annually, yeah.
Long term, then that would be on her to rent.
And-
Right, right.
Yeah, and to that point, if it was, even though you might be using it from time to time, sometimes for the fact that it's now the SUP is for.
Right.
The review period, because if they're out of compliance, they either have to come into compliance or they would lose it until it comes into compliance.
That's what.
So it's kind of built in, yeah.
That's what I would suggest.
Yes. That, I was not paying attention who handed me that, but that might have been the mayor. Somebody walked up and gave that. Okay, it just appeared, I saw a hand, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
That's pretty much in line with what I.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, I do prefer having to term at one house or term at the other, but it's turning out where either I have returning people coming in. And referrals from those that are I have a nursing staff that that refers me to long-term nurses too, but I do prefer long-term, but I'm covering my bases again, just in case I have a short term. And that's, so I'm trying to do it legit. I'm to the city and ask for permission.
So if someone meant to make a motion, it would have parking restriction off street,
Yeah, and she has all that. covered.
yeah, so. We can say the usual and customary things that we put on others, I'll entertain that motion, or you have a different idea? State it now.
Is that we accept the special use permit.
Okay. There's a second?
Does he have a tagged on what we're talking about?
The annual.
Yeah, it's with the annual inspection, yeah.
The annual, it would be an annual special use permit. Subject to.
To the inspections, yeah. If there's nothing comes out of that, then we don't need to, yeah.
With off-street parking and provisions.
I'll something that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we'll recommend to the council for next week. So I think, is it next week? Yeah, okay.
Just one more thing, you said your neighbor has to be sitting in front, if you have any questions, concerns, anything.
No,
I would love for you to come to me and just.
I don't, like I said, everything that my concerns is on their end, not with you or.
Thank you very much. And I'll come and introduce myself as.
We probably did that,
Oh, I don't see your head, your face. Yes.
Okay. All right, so the last thing on the agenda is a similar request by Dave and Charity Braden, 209 West Main, so a couple blocks off the highway. Are you here? Good. What do you got to say for yourself?
Well, so I think I submitted all, just a short-term rental vision. So, my husband is a contractor, and we've had long-term rentals, in Illinois for years, but this is, our first efforts at a short-term rental. We have a close friend here that keeps telling us we need to have a really good, Airbnb, and a place where friends and family visiting, can stay. And so we've had our eyes out looking for something, and actually Alex happens to be here at the house that he renovated and did just an excellent job on, and it just happens to be right around the corner from St. Louis Street. So when we saw that, we thought this is perfect. We can tie this to Lebanon's history with the Charles Dickens visit, and we want to create a charming and tasteful Dickens inspired cottage. Really are targeting families similar to what she said, visiting Scott Air Force Base, military personnel, friends and families visiting McKendree University, maybe in town for a wedding or family gathering. Again, being able to stay in the community rather than outside of the community, you know, in hotels and that kind of thing. We're also board members of the Father's House Church, which is right on the backside of Scott Air Force Base. And so we plan to be able to offer the home to traveling pastors and missionaries throughout the year. And of course, hopefully host some of our own out-of-town family. So really wanting to lean into the Charles Dickens theme during the holidays, have it decorated inside and out with the Christmas Carol decor, and provide, we're looking to provide an experience for visitors who will bring, you know, who want to enjoy the St. Louis Street and bring revenue and, you know, things here to the community.
Is this the house on the corner of?
Yeah.
Tower.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Next to the water tower, isn't
It is.
okay,
It's
that's
just to the west of the.
I- our first house was on 224, and I was trying, okay, which side of the house is that on, or the road, but. Okay,
In a catty corner for where Mrs. Nichols used to live there in a big yellow.
yeah, every house has a family that lived there.
If
That's
that's,
a light
if
thing,
that
huh?
happens, so really just wanting to operate it as a place for families to come and stay.
What about parking at this one?
Yeah, so there's off-street parking behind, and we measured it out, there's plenty of room.
In the alley? Okay, yeah, off the alley there.
That say
Okay.
this parking is for this property.
Yeah, I think so. You said it right, yeah, struck. Yeah, exactly. You did.
Well, I think we've hashed over a lot of the issues there on the first one. This one's not a mixed, it's VRBO or, which does make it easier for the city too, to check on as far as how often it was rented and the like.
The only comment I have on this one is not everybody was notified. Ratings. Because my business was not, and the ones around me were. That's the only comment.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
You mean as an owner or as a vendor?
You're
You're an owner?
not the building.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
Yeah, you're a renter,
That's.
you don't have a.
Right.
legal standing.
yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of what I was thinking. It's usually the property owner that gets notified.
Right. But you're here, which is good. Even better.
I will say, I live at 117 West Main. I'm disappointed that that's what you would like for it to be, because I was really hoping it would be. I looked at the house myself, with a friend, and I really thought it would be a great house for an older person or a young family. However, as long as everything is about, all the rules are followed, they're good enough, but I'm disappointed.
No,
It's a great house. It's a great house.
I've been in construction for 30 years and he did an amazing job. And I don't say that very often.
Yeah.
So,
I love what he did.
yeah, he did excellent, excellent work.
So this is your first foray into,
Yeah, the short-term rental,
Yeah.
right, we love to stay in short-term rentals across, when we travel and, love the experience of it, being different and the ability to come to a small, charming town like this, we really like that. So, yeah, it's we hope it's gonna be successful.
Are you guys local?
Yeah, we live in St. Louis.
So we moved from,
We've been on Fallon for years.
actually, I grew up in the fall though,
Oh.
so I graduated.
Yeah, we're here a lot because our churches, we're here on Sundays and Wednesdays because we're just, the church is in my Air Force Base, so
Mhm.
most all of our families over here, and a lot of our friends are in Lebanon.
Yeah,
When you're considering short term, how long are you saying short term? So like 2 days, I've never done an Airbnb, so I don't know much about this, but. So this is all new for the Airbnb. We have 2 young daughters. So we're very concerned. We're literally right next to it. So we're very concerned with, we've had issues in the past with runs and alleys and stuff like that.
And
So that's our big concern is the partying and all that, like.
We've had urinating on our fence on the side of the house.
Well, we
We've
obviously
had
don't need
yelling
that to happen either.
Fights, we had a guy get beat up in the alleyway. So, yeah, it's our concern that having random people come in to your Airbnb. I mean, yeah, this might be background checks and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm still worried.
Yeah, I think, well, Airbnb and BeReal, so it is a 2-night minimum stay. And, like I said, and this is globally now, Airbnb has technology measures in how, like, they highlight people if they think that, because they do identity verifications. We're enforcing the age restriction, which we think will help with that. That, like, if someone's making a reservation at the last minute, they highlight those so that then we can go to them and ask, what is the intent? Because they've said, okay, that may denote someone's just trying to throw a party. But again, putting an age restriction on it. And again, like, we plan on doing this very night, like, it's gonna be a little bit higher caliber, higher price, like, this isn't, we do anticipate families coming in who need there's actually a 4th bedroom potentially. That need the space, they're here to, to visit. We have children too, so I totally validate your concern. And we don't want that to happen either, we would stop up if there were any issues, so we do want to have an external camera at the door so that we can, make sure that not more guests are coming in than what they registered for, so that's one of the measures we want to put in.
which is pretty common now. I particularly in Florida playing baseball, we rent a lot. And if there's more to cars than you said there were gonna be there, they're on you pretty quick. Not Airbnb, but the tent, you know, the property manager. And then they rate you as a guest,
Yes.
and then
So then I get that.
you get that, but you also get feedback, and if Airbnb doesn't like the way you're doing it, they
And then
can
there's
kick you out.
like a hotel, we got 2 guests and you have 5 people in the room, I mean, it's the same thing, you're losing money too.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
money, for us, it's a money,
Mhm.
so we don't want any.
The good thing about short-term rental is you can immediately, like, restrict those people, like, if there's an issue. If you think about a long-term renter or even a homeowner, like a long-term renter, it can take months to get rid of, you know, an issue. With a homeowner, you don't, you know, there's even less recourse. So with the amount of diligence and vetting that goes into every single person that comes to that property, you actually have more reassurance than you would, you know, that it can immediately be taken care of if something did, you know, go awry. And we'd love to give you our personal number so that you can let us know if you have any concerns, because we would want to take care of that right away.
Yeah, I have Alex's number. And I was
Alex.
always messaging him, what's going on? I had the garage job next.
Yeah. Good, I mean, we like to know that too, yeah.
So it's gonna be so I actually stage homes like in St. Louis, so he renovates them, I stage them higher end. And so really wanting to do an English cottage theme, so like I said, like the Dickens theme, so some antiques and you know, things like that. I'm excited to do it, so good.
I would also suggest that you, contact the city again and speak to them if there's concerns about disorderly public, or, just disorderly conduct. That would be handled through another committee, not through a zoning
Right.
committee, although that needs to be conveyed. Because they may need to do something special with these types of properties. If they're not the ones generating the disorderly conduct, then it's others, right? So that needs to be addressed by that committee.
So like you're talking about when they've had events and.
Yeah, so if anybody other than this other home is generating that disorderly conduct, that needs to be brought to the city. And as a public record, it needs to be written and posted. Not, don't speak. Speaking doesn't do anything. Write it, put it and file it with the city clerk. That way we'll have a record of it.
Hey, Brent, you have a lady with a question over there.
Yeah.
Right across the street from the proposed Airbnb. So, so if there are issues that arise, so who do you contact?
You'll have our information.
Okay, but should we contact, really, should it go to the city, like the police department first? I mean, obviously,
I think-
depending on.
I think it depends
Scenario,
whatever
but-
you're comfortable with, but
Yeah,
we would
okay.
want to be
Informed.
notified
Yeah.
immediately,
Yeah,
okay, for sure.
Now, does Airbnb do something like, if there's been so many complaints, you guys get revoked?
Yeah.
Airbnb status?
Yeah, and like you said, so there's ratings that are done, so yeah, we would.
Yeah, and if there's anything
yeah.
that we need to be able to, if it's passed, you know, I can help you, we can, you know, I can, if I'm here with you and I've been doing it for a while, I can help you with it, and I will. There you go.
Yep, couple blocks.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Just one quick thing, I did learn a couple things that I didn't know about Airbnbs. I didn't realize that they were strictly regulated as they are by the organization. You're telling me if there's a problem, it'll go through there. My comment and question is, because of that, does the city necessarily have to have anything on their end where they can deal with things, other than what we have already on this?
Well, the inspection, obviously, but yeah.
That doesn't deal with a lousy tenants or with a drunk party.
Well, I mean, if there's, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I would call both. If there was disorderly conduct, I would let them know, and then I would also call the police and get it on record.
I would too, no offense, that's not necessarily gonna be like.
So what I I like your suggestion. Part of the annual review should be checking outstanding complaints.
That, just like we
Correct.
talked about on the other
So
matter, yeah.
You would have to coordinate with the police department or city clerk on complaints that are filed. I think that would be
Yeah,
appropriate as an annual review.
see what kind
Nobody-
of patterns there are and.
Correct. That way
Yeah.
we're being very procedural.
It's a good point.
Yeah, the thing is, I've been doing it for about 3.5 years. I have not had one sheet before. But it's really communicating with the clientele and the guests. And, yeah, so I don't even know how that would work, to be honest.
Yeah, but your situation is not the same as everybody's.
No, it's not correct.
Well, it's still would be up to a neighbor to report it, right? I mean, the city's not gonna go looking for something that isn't there, or may or may not be there.
That would also help us with the condition on the other business that is operating a licensed facility.
Right, yeah, right.
Right, so
Yep.
that helps us with that. We have to encode it in some kind of process.
Yeah, like a checklist
Right,
of when
so that-
renewal, yeah.
That we're objective about it and not going after business. That's not.
Yeah.
Right, because you're not trying to shut down.
No.
But you're trying to make sure that you're doing the same things for everyone.
Yeah, put some order to it.
Right.
I'll get that in the notes.
I recommend.
Believe it or not. Well, you can, yeah.
I recommend we accept this. Short-term rental, for a special use permit,
Okay.
subject to the rules that we have established, the 2 days minimum parking. Requirements. And I would also make it subject to the annual review.
Yep, got that one. Is there any other discussion? Not all in favor? All opposed? All right, so we'll go to the council on all these matters, recommend to the council, and then they'll take it from there. So doesn't hurt to be there on Monday. It's not necessary, but I think the meeting's at 6:30 Monday. Usually the plan commission reports somewhere in the early part of the meeting, so.
You know, I'm especially thankful for the neighbors that did show, that had comments. I think that's excellent.
Yeah.
You're the reason why it'll be successful. Your neighbors. So that's a good thing. Engagement of the community. Definitely.
And then the only other thing then is just the question I brought up. I mean, is it something we wanna explore, address? I mean, I think some communities do have restrictions on the number.
Yeah, I jotted that down. That's something we ought to try and coordinate with the city, see what their view is on something like that.
Yeah, I can bring it up
Yeah.
Monday at the meeting, just that it was, we didn't have a hearing, but yeah.
But how many in, say, a 5 block area or?
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be good to know kind of what the current density is.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah,
Properties versus how many are already in this category.
Right.
yeah,
We have other properties that are covenants. Although they're filed with the county, they might not be as tight as far as enforcement is concerned,
right,
but different covenants,
in different
they
subdivisions.
have different restrictions.
I know we have some in McHenry Park, but I don't know that any of
Yeah.
us could recite them all. Or they've ever been checked.
That would be, because there are areas that are zoned differently. Under the covenants.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one issue. That's one thing, and the other thing I can do is like I did when we talked about building heights. Do some research of towns around us and do they even worry about it? So we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting. if there's nothing else on the agenda, next meeting, we won't have it for that. We'll we'll take a vacation again, so. Which is, I've been doing this for a long time. This first time ever that there was a hiatus more than a month or month and a half, so. But we deserved it after the July and September.
Yeah, 2 in 1 month.
Yeah. Okay, I have nothing else. Anybody else have anything? If not, we'll comments.
Yeah, I'd like to remind you guys of something, you brought this up a long time ago, meetings, the city discussed with the board, nothing go them down. That's updating the city ordinances, specifically this historic district, because they're obsolete.
The what?
Historic.
Oh, historic district.
They're obsolete, they were established, what, in the sixties, we're in a different world now.
Originally, yeah, I think that's right.
Don't get me wrong, I am the history buff, we have to preserve the history, but we have to be realistic, practical, and we can't stop progress, can't completely stop progress because of a minor.
Well,
Got to do something about updating these ordinances.
for the record, I mean, I will say this, the city ordinances as a whole are 100% better than they were 15 years ago. They've been updated. I'm talking about just the building codes and all that, standards. But the historic district has not been touched for a while. But you never heard me say that we should do that, because that's an undertaking. But I do understand what you're saying.
Also,
Well, it's a little bit antiquated the way that like a certificate of appropriate, the whole process is cumbersome for painting, those types of things. On the other hand, you don't want to have a bright purple or pink building that doesn't fit in. So you're more familiar with historic districts. Or you've done a lot. You're in a historic home, right? On the National Register or whatever Belleville Street is, isn't it? Isn't that?
You're talking to me?
Yeah, yeah. You seem to know a lot about this.
I have a house on the National Register in St. Louis City.
Okay, that's what it was, yeah.
So
So-
living on Belleville Street is not on the National Register.
It's historic,
It's
though.
got some kind of historical plaque or something on it, but, yeah. But I have delved into some of that in past life when I lived in St. Louis City and had to go through different things based on requirements for that property. It was a city landmark and on the National Register, so we had a couple of things.
Yeah, and that's control beyond anything ours would ever dream of doing, but same concept.
Yeah. There would certainly be a fair number of examples we could pull. What we have versus what others are doing, and if we want to dive into something. Like
And what their processes are as well.
that, there's ways that we can make things less cumbersome and so.
Okay, I have nothing else. Motion to adjourn? I won't ask, all in favor.